The price was too cheap for a house still inhabited by those long dead. The movie begins by showing a family consisting of Roy, his wife Denise, and their 2 children, Jessica and Benny. They used to live in Chicago, and their family was once very happy, just like any normal family. However, their happiness vanished after a tragic incident struck them. The tragedy began when Roy and Denise couldn't pick up Benny from daycare. They asked Jessica to do it instead, but they didn't know that Jessica was drunk at the time because she had been partying with her friends. As a result, when Jessica went to pick up Benny, they got into a car accident that left Benny severely injured and had to be rushed to the hospital. Because of the accident, Benny lost his ability to speak. Roy and Denise's savings were all spent on Benny's medical treatment. With no money left, they had to sell their house, and with what little they had remaining, they bought a very cheap old house. The new house looked very worn out, matching its low price, but there was still something good about it. It had an old barn and a large area of land that could be used for farming. Roy planned to use the land to earn extra income by planting sunflowers and processing the seeds into sunflower snacks to sell. After arriving at the new house, Jessica began to feel an eerie atmosphere around the place. They unloaded all their belongings and started cleaning the dust and dirt from every corner of the house. Before they knew it, night had fallen. Roy, who was still awake, suddenly heard a voice coming from Benny's room. When he checked, he saw Benny still awake, staring at the ceiling. Roy was puzzled by his son's behavior, but since it was already late, he tucked Benny into bed and went to sleep. The next morning, Denise was shocked to find that the wall she had cleaned the previous day had suddenly become dirty again. Confused, she cleaned the stains once more. Not long after, Roy invited Jessica to go with him to a store to buy sunflower seeds for their new field. While at the store, Jessica wandered around and noticed a bulletin board. She asked her father for permission to walk outside for a bit. There, she accidentally met a man named Bobby. They started talking and getting to know each other. After a while, Roy called Jessica so they could go home. Roy felt happy knowing that only a few days after moving, Jessica had already made a new friend. When they arrived home, Roy and Jessica carried all the sunflower seeds into the basement. As Roy was unloading them one by one, he was disturbed by a flock of crows that disrupted his work. Luckily, a man named John appeared and chased the crows away. Seeing all the seeds Roy had bought, John became interested in helping him plant them. At first, Roy refused because he didn't have enough money to pay John's wages. However, John assured him that he was happy to help without expecting any payment. Meanwhile, in the basement, while Jessica was placing the seeds, she accidentally found a necklace. She tried to open it to see what was inside, but it was very difficult to unlock, so she decided to just keep it. Later, Roy introduced John to Jessica. Since John had helped Roy chase away the crows, Denise invited him to have lunch with them. From that day on, John started helping Roy take care of and plant the sunflowers. Days passed, and soon the sunflowers they planted began to grow. Until one day, Roy experienced a terrible accident in which his hand was seriously injured after being caught in the tractor's machine. Denise immediately took Roy to the hospital, while Jessica was told to stay at home with Benny. While at home, Jessica heard strange noises coming from the upper floor. At first, she thought it was John's doing, but when she went to check, she was disturbed by an invisible presence.
Ben, what are you doing? No!
The unseen figure made all the items in the living room fall to the floor, forcing Jessica to call 911 for help. Soon after, the police arrived and began asking her some questions. Jessica explained that a mysterious presence had disturbed her by throwing things around the house. However, when the police checked, they saw no mess and found no sign of anyone else being there. Shortly after, Roy and Denise returned home and saw the police car. They asked what had happened, and the officers explained that Jessica claimed to have seen something. The police, however, believed that Jessica was only hallucinating. Jessica denied this, insisting that she really had seen an invisible entity throwing things around the house. Hearing this, Roy and Denise became angry and refused to believe anything she said. Feeling frustrated that her parents no longer trusted her, Jessica grew upset. If only Benny could speak, he would surely tell them about the presence living in the house. Jessica then asked Benny where the figure was, and Benny pointed directly toward a certain room. With no one else to confide in, the next day Jessica went to meet Bobby, the only person she could talk to. She told him that she had been experiencing supernatural disturbances in her house. Since Bobby had lived in the area for a long time, she believed he might know who had lived in that house before her family. Bobby explained that the previous family had moved out about 6 years ago and that no one had heard anything about them since. After the house had been abandoned for 6 years, Jessica's family became the new owners. Jessica then asked Bobby if he had ever seen any ghosts around that place, but Bobby told her he had never seen anything like that near her house. After their conversation, Jessica decided to return home. Once there, she still felt curious about what was really inside the house. She went down to the basement to learn more about the history of the place they were living in. But just as she entered once again, Jessica was disturbed by the same unseen entity haunting the house. Terrified, Jessica began crying hysterically. The next morning, while walking around the house, she accidentally saw shadows moving into the old barn. When she entered the barn, Jessica saw a small child sitting quietly in the corner. As she slowly approached, the ghost suddenly attacked and injured her. Roy and Denise immediately took Jessica to the hospital for treatment. One of the doctors told them that Jessica had intentionally hurt herself just to get their attention. On the way home, Roy and Denise were furious with Jessica for harming herself. Jessica kept insisting that a ghost had been haunting and terrorizing her, but her parents didn't believe a word she said and ended up yelling at her in anger. Feeling hurt and devastated, Jessica went to her room. There, she noticed that the locket, which had previously been sealed shut, had somehow opened by itself. Inside, she saw a photo of a woman, a photo she remembered seeing before at the store. Realizing this, Jessica quickly grabbed her bicycle and rode to the store. On the way, she happened to meet Bobby. Jessica got into Bobby's car and the two of them drove straight to the store together. Meanwhile, at home, Roy realized that Jessica had gone missing and hurried out to search for her. Shortly after, Jessica and Bobby arrived at the store, where Jessica was shocked to see the photo of the same woman from the locket pinned on the bulletin board. Upon checking, they found that the woman was John's wife, Mary. The photo also showed the faces of John's 2 children, Lindsay and Michael. After learning this, Jessica became convinced that John and his family had once lived in that very house. Without wasting time, Jessica and Bobby rushed back home. Meanwhile, at the house, Denise saw Benny pointing toward the corner of the room. When she went to check, no one was there, but the sight gave her chills. At that moment, Denise finally started to believe Jessica's story about the supernatural presence haunting their home. Feeling terrified, Denise began packing their belongings, planning to leave the place immediately. Her fear turned to certainty when she suddenly saw the ghost emerge from the wall right before her eyes. Outside the house, John was suddenly attacked by a flock of crows, leaving him injured and bleeding. As this happened, he began to have flashbacks of his past when he once had a happy family. However, that happiness disappeared after his sunflower farm failed to produce a harvest, causing him to suffer heavy financial losses. In his lowest moment, John's wife, Mary, decided to leave him, taking their 2 children, Lindsay and Michael, with her. John was furious because he felt Mary had never supported him during his hardest times. He tried to stop her from leaving with the children, and their argument quickly escalated until John lost control of his emotions. In a fit of rage, he murdered Mary. Overcome with uncontrollable anger, he also ended up killing both of his children. Ever since that moment, John was consumed by sorrow and guilt over the loss of his family. Back in the present, John saw Denise packing their belongings, and the sight triggered his painful memories. His mind began to break, and he started to hallucinate, believing that Denise was Mary, his late wife. He demanded that Mary, meaning Denise, must not leave the house. In his delusion, he violently grabbed her by the throat and began to strangle her. Feeling terrified, Denise picked up Benny and ran to hide in the basement. Shortly afterward, Jessica and Bobby arrived at the house, but John quickly knocked Bobby unconscious.
Dad! Let's go! Bobby, watch out!
Seeing this, Jessica rushed into the basement to protect her mother and brother. John, however, mistook Jessica for Lindsay, his daughter, and slowly began breaking down the basement door. Inside, Jessica tried to block the windows and smash the lights to make it harder for John to find them. Eventually, John managed to break through the door and began searching for Jessica and Denise. Just in time, Roy arrived home and tried to save his family. But before he could act, John attacked him and stabbed him in the back with a pitchfork. Seeing Roy injured and helpless, Jessica and Denise desperately fought back. But John's strength was far greater than theirs. Suddenly, part of the basement floor turned into muddy, watery ground. It was then revealed that the ghost of Mary, Lindsay, and Michael had returned to help Roy's family by dragging John into the ground, ultimately ending his rampage. After the horrifying incident, Roy's family thanked Mary's spirit for saving their lives. Roy was taken to the hospital for medical treatment.
You're gonna be okay.
Please. Get him in.
Months later, he fully recovered from his injuries, and Benny finally regained his ability to speak. From then on, the family lived peacefully and happily, free from any supernatural disturbances in their home. And thus, the story came to an end.